So once again, welcome back to the session, everyone. So in the last 2 days of session, the last 2 days, our revision phase or in the crash course, we have already discussed about the internal control system as well as the direct controls and their test of controls. In addition to which, we have also discussed on the deficiencies, recommendations, and test of controls. Again, from the area of audit risk, we have already covered the risk as well as responses that have to be taken by the auditor in relation to the scenario. And in today's session, as we discussed in the last day, we will be starting with the most important area of our syllabus. That's the area of substantive procedures. So basically, we know that substantive procedures or the area of audit procedure is one of the most crucial area in our AA syllabus, as well as in case if you're planning to attempt the AAA paper, it is also equally important in your AAA as well. So we have actually discussed about all the possible substantives during our regular sessions. So we have covered the file called substantive procedure. I will be sharing the same file in the group today itself. So we will start our discussion part with the same notes itself so that you can get a proper picture on what have to be considered as part of substantives and all. So basically, when it comes to the area of substantive procedures, well, we know that substantives will be asked in multiple ways during the course of your exam. Substantives can be asked in many ways. And mainly substantives will be purely be part of your either your 20-mark question or be part of your 30-mark question. And again, substantives will also be one of the question along with your audit risk as well. So the substantive questions will be tested in multiple ways, substantive procedures. Either you might be getting a direct question on substantive. So we can call it as general substantive, whereby you might not be getting a scenario. The examiner will directly ask you for the substantive procedures in relation to the revenue. And they might not have mentioned much with regarding revenue in the scenario. So you can just write the points which you already knew about the revenue. Or else there can also be chances of having scenario-specific substantive, whereby you will be getting a scenario and on the basis of the scenario, you might be asked to provide the substantive. So literally you have to clearly picturize what is there in the scenario and you have to write the substantives according to the scenario given. Or there can be assertions-based substantive, whereby you might be asked to provide the substantive procedures to confirm the valuation of the inventory, or you might be asked to confirm the existence of property, plant, and equipment. So literally you have to provide substantive which is specific to the assertion, or else there can also be chances of having scenario plus assertion-based subsession, which means they might not have provided the assertion within the requirement, but they might have indirectly talked about the assertion within the scenario. That's scenario plus assertion type of question. So these are the set of substantives that will be properly be tested during their exam. So there can be chances of having general substantive, then there will be scenario specific substantive, assertion based substantive, and scenario plus assertion based. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So we will look into each type of substantive procedures and we will do questions from each areas once after discussing the total set of substantives that are available for the exam. So as I mentioned, we will start with this file. And on the basis of this file, we will explain substantive procedures. Okay. So basically, we have studied many set of substantive procedures. Sometimes you might have followed the BPP or Kaplan textbook, or you might have already followed your faculty notes. And we will be following a particular note which is prepared from my end. And well, this particular note is based on our BPP Kaplan textbooks. And we have also considered point from the past exams, mock exams, specimen papers, and from all possible sources. So the first one is with regarding the opening balance. So you will never be getting a question directly on opening balance, or you might not be asked to write the substantive procedures in relation to opening balance. Instead, the examiner might specify in the scenario that it's a new client for the audit firm, and the previous year audit engagement was not performed by any auditors. In that case, we can literally understand from the scenario the closing balance of the company might be misstated. So as an auditor, if the examiner is asking us to write the substantive procedures, what we need to consider that they are mentioning something with regarding the opening balances. So opening balances have to be tested. Clear? In the same manner, they might be asking you to write the substantive relating to the bank. So if you get a question on substantive relating to bank, automatically you have to literally look at the scenario. You have to clearly focus what it is mentioned in the scenario. And you have to provide the substantive procedures purely according to the scenario itself. Say, for example, if the scenario specifies that the client company have already prepared a bank reconciliation statement, then in that case, you can go for the reperformance or recalculation of bank reconciliation statement to confirm its accuracy. On the other hand, if it is clearly mentioned that the company have not yet prepared the bank reconciliation statement, you won't score any mark in writing reperforming bank reconciliations. They are not that. So this is how you have to write the substantive. So clearly read what it is mentioned in the scenario and write the substantives accordingly. Is that clear, everyone? Clear or no? Voice break ആവുന്നുണ്ടോ?
ചെറുതായിട്ട്
ബ്രേക്ക് ആണോ?
സ്റ്റക്ക് ആണെന്നോ?
Clear or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Then moving on to the next one, directives emoluments. So we have already studied properly about the directors emoluments. So when we know that when it comes to directors emoluments, it includes all the payments which are being paid to a director. That includes salaries. In case of fees, then that fees will be included. Any bonus paid to the directors, pension contribution, retirement benefit, non-cash benefit, compensation for the loss of office, everything will be considered under the directors emoluments. So if the examiner is asking you to provide substantive procedure in relation to bonus payouts for the directors, you can use the same directors emoluments point. Again, if the examiner is asking you to provide substantive procedures in relation to the pension contribution, again, you can use the same point. But there should be a confusion that will be created from end. While reading the scenario, you should clearly understand whether the examiner is asking you about the director's emoluments or any sort of payments that is made to an employee. Say, for example, if the examiner is asking you to write bonus payments for the employees' substantives, in that case, you should literally focus on the payroll substantives instead of writing about director's emoluments. So the director's emoluments will consist of only any sort of payment that is being made directly to a director and not to any other employee. And again, as I mentioned in the class, the first 2 points with regarding the general director's emolument should be used only if the examiner is asking you for director's emoluments itself. On the other hand, if the examiner is asking you to write substantives relating to director's bonus or any other amounts, then in all those cases, you can use points from here. And instead of using the term emoluments, replace it with whatever being asked in the question. Say, for example, if the examiner is asking you to write substantive procedures in relation to the director's bonus, in that case, what you can do? You can inquire each individual director to confirm the bonus listed are complete and are in line with their expectation. You can also compare the emoluments. Instead of emoluments, replace it with bonus. Compare the bonus with the previous year bonus and with the expectation. Agree bonus to the payroll records. Review director's contract and ensure bonus are consistent. Then consider the adequacy of disclosure for director's bonus are in accordance with applicable accounting standard. So mention it like that. If you're getting a question on director's bonus, then you replace the emoluments cut term with that of the bonus. Or if you're getting pension contribution, replace it with the same amount. Clear? Okay. So if the examiner is asking you to write substantive procedures in relation to revenue, definitely you can use the same points. Then purchase and other expenses. Purchase and other expenses, where in the confusion created. Purchase and other expense and which amount? Sometimes if the examiner asks for purchase of products, maybe raw materials for the company. So what does it mean? Which is the other accounting area that will be affected by the purchase of a raw material? Payables. Payables. So you have to clearly read the scenario and check whether they are asking you about purchases or payables. Even if the scenario mentions that it's relating to purchases, if there is an outstanding payment that need to be made to the supplier, then it is payables balance. So you can use the points relating to purchase and payables, which we have studied on the basis of assertion. Again, if it is some other expense, and if the company have not made the payment on time, then that should be treated as accrual rather than writing procedures relating to expenses. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ നോക്കുക എന്തിനെ പറ്റിയിട്ടാണ് ചോദിച്ചേക്കുന്നത്. പർച്ചേസ് ആണോ ചോദിച്ചേക്കുന്നത്, ഔട്ട്സ്റ്റാൻഡിംഗ് പേയ്മെന്റ് ഉണ്ടെന്ന് പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ പർച്ചേസ് ആൻഡ് പേയബിൾസ് ആണ്. ദെൻ നിങ്ങളോട് വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും എക്സ്പെൻസ് ആണെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു, പക്ഷെ അവിടെ എന്ത് പറയുന്നുണ്ട്, നിങ്ങൾ ആ എക്സ്പെൻസിന്റെ പൈസ കൊടുത്തിട്ടില്ല എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു, അങ്ങനെയാണ് എന്തായിരിക്കും, അക്രൂവൽസ് ആയിരിക്കും. ക്ലിയർ? Yeah. Most commonly, sales tax liability will be asked as a direct question. Moving on, payroll. When it comes to the payroll, you must always consider whatever payments being made to the employees should be considered under the payroll cost. Then provision, whenever it is mentioned in the scenario that there is any sort of legal claim against the company, or the company is having some sort of cash outflow on the basis of present obligation as a result of their past event, or there is something that is mentioned in relation to the violation of any other law and regulation, then in all these cases, we can consider writing substantive procedures in relation to provision. Again, receivables. Receivables is one of the most important substantive. So which is the most important assertion within the receivables? Existence. Existence is the most important assertion within receivables. Receivables in the two important one ആണ് existence. So we must always consider writing points relating to existence. So നമുക്ക് receivables in existence confirm ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് എന്തൊക്കെ substantives പഠിക്കണം എന്നുള്ള കാര്യം കൃത്യമായിട്ട് നോക്കുക, which includes both alternative audit procedures as well primary procedure, that's obtaining confirmation from the client company, the third party. Again, you must also be having good knowledge on completeness, existence as well as valuation. These are the main three assertions. Okay. So most probably you might be getting assertion specific question from the area of receivables. So do study the assertion specific points. Then when it comes to the inventory, so what all are the substantives we have learned about inventory? First one is assertion specific. Then
third party.
Inventory held with third party, right? Held with third party. Okay. Then
before the inventory count.
Yes.
During the inventory.
Yes. Before the inventory count. Before the count. Then
During the inventory.
During the
inventory count. Then
After the
inventory count.
After the inventory count. Okay.
Standard
Then
costing.
When the inventory is recorded, standard costing. Then
continuous
Inventory.
Continuous inventory record. Continuous inventory record. So we have studied these many substantives in relating to inventory, right? So we have studied assertion specific points, which includes completeness, rights and obligation, existence, then cutoff, accuracy, valuation, allocation, and classification. Again, we studied about performing the audit procedures before the inventory count, attendance at the inventory count, then after the inventory count, inventory held by third party, standard costing method, and continuous inventory count. So literally we have studied these many points. So whenever you get a question on the area of inventory, you should always be having this confusion. If you does not have any confusion in writing inventory related points, it means that you haven't studied the substantives properly. Because if you have already studied the substantive, then when you get the scenario, you should clearly identify what is actually being asked there. So if they have actually asked us to perform the substantive to confirm the valuation of receivables, it's an assertion specific one. So you need to clearly provide substantives for confirming the valuation itself. Then if this scenario specifies that the company's some of their inventories are held with third party, then you should include points in relating to confirm balances that are being held with third party. And you need to clearly look when this particular count are going to be taken, whether the count have already been taken place, whether the count is going to be taken place, or whether the count is ongoing. So if the count is ongoing, then you need to write the points in relation to during the count. If the count is going to be undertaken, then you need to consider writing points relating to before the count. And if the count is already undertaken, then you have to provide the points relating to after the count. Or if it is mentioned somewhere that the inventory are being valued at standard cost, clearly you should provide points in relation to standard costing method. Again, if there is something mentioned in the scenario that specifies that company is following continuous inventory count rather than annual inventory count, then entirely the procedure should be written on the basis of inventory valuation when we perform continuous inventory count. So you should provide the points accordingly. So always stick on to the scenario as well as to the requirement. Clearly understand what is actually being mentioned in the scenario. Then we have already mentioned about trade payables. Well, these points are common for both trade payables and purchase. So even if you're getting a question on payables or purchase, you can use the same point. And moving forward, one of the most important is the non-current assets. So what all have we actually learned with regarding non-current asset? We have studied about the completeness, then existence, valuation, rights and obligation. Then most importantly, we have studied points in relation to addition of non-current asset, then disposal of non-current asset, and self-constructed asset. Again, we have studied about the valuation of depreciation, about the revaluation of PPE. So you should clearly read and understand from the scenario about what they actually mentions about the company. Suppose if the scenario specifies that the company have done a review of the property, plant and equipment. So is there any difference between review and revaluation? Review and revaluation same or no?
No.
No, both are entirely different. When it comes to revaluation, we will be doing it as per IAS 16. We will be increasing or decreasing the value of asset. When it comes to review, we are just checking the condition of the asset. So if the examiner is specifying that the company have done a review of asset, then it is not necessary to provide the points in relation to revaluation. Only if it is clearly mentioned that the company have revalued their capital asset, then only you should provide points in relation to the revaluation of PPE. Again, it may be mentioned in the scenario that the company have acquired some of the asset after disposing of its old assets. So it may be properly be emphasized much more on the acquisition of new asset, but it may not be mentioned much regarding the disposal of their asset. But if there is a term that shows that the company have acquired many of the new asset after disposing of existing one, then in that case, you should include points in relation to both the addition of non-current asset as well as with regarding disposal of non-current assets. So you should clearly understand what it is specified. Addition disposal addition and disposal. Again, even if they mentions about the addition of asset, at the same time, you should clearly understand whether they have actually added up a new asset after purchasing it, or whether they have self-constructed that particular asset. If the assets are being self-constructed, then the points are entirely different, because we have literally studied points in relation to both the self-constructed asset and points in relation to the addition of assets. So self-constructed assets points are entirely different because the accounting treatment will be different. And at the same time, if the addition of assets is done, it should also be different. So you have to clearly understand which is actually being taken by the company. Again, when a company have purchased some of the vehicle or any other asset, if the scenario specifies like that, you should clearly understand the business of the company. If the company is involved in a vehicle retail industry, well, we know that for that particular company, that particular asset is an inventory rather than a non-current asset. So if they are requiring you to perform valuation of the vehicle, then you should write the points in relation to valuation of inventory. Or if the company is a pharmaceutical company and the examiner is asking you to write points in relation to the valuation of PPE, valuation of vehicle, then in that case, since it's a pharmaceutical company, for them, a vehicle is a non-current asset. So that should be valuation of PPE. So on the basis of the nature of business only, we will be deciding on whether it's actually a PPE or an inventory. So you should clearly read the scenario and understand whether we have to treat that particular amount as PPE or an inventory. Clear? Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Then, non-current liability. As we already discussed in our regular session, most probably you might not be getting a question to write substantive procedure in relation to non-current liability, but still you can get a question for writing substantives for the long-term loan. Well, we know that any loan that have to be repaid over an year will be treated as a non-current liability, or any bad or doubtful, any debts that have been taken by the company which need to be repaid over a period of 1 year should be treated as non-current liability. And if the company haven't treated non-current liability appropriately, the balances will be misstated. So the examiner will be asking you to identify the substantive procedures that have to be performed by the auditor in relation to the non-current liability. Then you have to provide these points. Then again, intangible asset. When a company have acquired any of the intangible asset like patent, copyright, trademark, license, brand name, any intangible asset, in all those cases, the treatment will be same. But you have to properly understand from the scenario about the intangible asset, whether the company have actually purchased it or not. And if the company have purchased an intangible asset, then you can include these points. So from the scenario, the first thing that you have to do is the fact that you need to identify whether it's an intangible asset or not. Okay. Again, moving forward, it's with regarding the research and development expenditure. When a company spends significant amount on research and development expenditure, they might be asking us to write the substantive procedures relating to the same. But again, before writing the substantive procedure relating to research and development, properly read the scenario, try to pick the scenarios, key points, and write the substantives accordingly. Then again, when it comes to the going concern procedure, you should never try to include these points directly. Rather than that, try to focus on the scenario, ask all scenario specific procedures first, and after that only move on to the general points. Then again, moving forward, it's about the prepayments and accruals. So basically, when it comes to the prepayments, so it means a payment which is already being done before the company have rendered the service. And accruals means the company is yet to pay the amount even after rendering of a particular service. So whenever something is mentioned with regarding outstanding payment, it should always be considered under the head of accruals. Say, for example, it may be mentioned that a company is liable to pay 3 months' salary to the employees. However, they have not paid the payment. So rather than writing points in relating to payroll expense there, you should include the points in relating to accruals as the salary is being outstanding for the past 3 months. Again, if the company have made any advance payment to anyone, it should be considered under prepayments. Then equity share capital, you might be getting that question. Same for the dividend as well as reserve. And you might be getting questions on uncorrected mistakes as well. And sometimes it may be mentioned that you are in the final stage of audit and you will be asked to perform procedures in relation to the overall financial statements at the final conclusion stage. So in that case, you should perform procedures in relation to the overall review of the financial statements. And it's a very rare question, but still, if you get the question, you can clearly write the answer. You might be asked to provide software procedures by using CAT or computer assisted auditing technique. You might be asked to perform procedures. So if you get a question to write the computer assisted auditing techniques, then you can use 4 major points there. You can use the CAT for the purpose of performing analytical procedures. You can use the CAT for the purpose of selecting representative sample. You can use it for recalculation. You can use it for cutoff testing. So these are the 4 things that you can perform by using CAT. So analytical procedures cheyam, representative sample select cheyam, recalculation nadatham, cutoff testing nadatham. So sometimes if the examiner might be asking you to write software procedures for revenue or receivables, then you can mention that audit software can be used to perform analytical procedure by comparing receivables days with the prior year and industry data. Audit software can be used to select representative sample of receivables for further investigation. Audit software can be used to recalculate the allowance for receivables to ensure mathematical accuracy. CAT can be used to undertake cutoff testing by assessing the dates of last sales invoice relate to the pre-year end and sales return relate to the pre-year end, and those related to the post-year end were excluded. So this is what you can do as part of the audit software procedure. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes.
Yes,
Clear
sir.
now? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, once more.
Sorry?
Just a more.
So audit software procedures എന്തിനൊക്കെ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുമെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ 4 കാര്യത്തിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടായിരിക്കും. നമുക്ക് അനലിറ്റിക്കൽ പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, അതായത് കമ്പാരിസൺ നടത്താൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട്, സാമ്പിൾസ് സെലക്ട് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, റീകാൽക്കുലേഷൻ നടത്താൻ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം, കട്ട് ഓഫ് ടെസ്റ്റിംഗ് നടത്താൻ വേണ്ടി യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം. ഓക്കെ, ഓൾറൈറ്റ്. സോ this was the actual substantive procedures that we were discussing in our regular session, and we have also appropriately discussed all the areas before, and we have also studied these areas, but still we have much more areas to be covered as part of the substantive procedures, because other than these procedures, definitely you will be getting additional questions, and you can use general points for writing those substantives. And I have already taught you one thing, that whenever you write a substantive procedure, you should be including 3 elements there. You must include procedure, then what else?
Document or
information. Then purpose. Yes, purpose. So this is what you need to include with regarding each of the substantive. So you need to clearly include a procedure. You have to specify whatever the document or information you want, and whatever be the purpose, that should also be specified there. Okay. So, well, say for example, consider that the company have an allowance for receivables balance mentioned in the accounts. So we need to ensure the accuracy of that. So what we can do in that case, as a procedure, we can provide recalculate. What we need to recalculate? Allowance for receivables. Allowance for receivables. And for what purpose?
In order to confirm mathematical.
Yes, in order to confirm mathematical accuracy. Okay, mathematical accuracy. So this recalculate would be considered as the procedure. Allowance for receivables is what we need to recalculate. That's our information. And what's the purpose of it? It is to confirm mathematical accuracy. That's a purpose. So for every substantive, there should be a clear procedure. Whatever be the document or information you want, that have to be specified. And the purpose for which you are performing that substantive should also be clearly provided. So for the purpose of which we need to literally understand the meaning of assertions. So we have already studied about assertions, right? So, well, what do you mean by assertions? എന്താണ് assertion എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാല്? What do you mean by assertion?
Claims made by the
Yes, assertions are the claims made by the management, right? So the management is responsible for preparing the company's financial statements, and while preparing the company's financial statements, they might make certain claim, or they might make certain guarantees. These claims and guarantees can be called as assertions. And what all were the assertions for the class of transactions? Occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cutoff, classification, presentation. Occurrence, completeness, accuracy, cutoff, classification, presentation. So as we mentioned earlier, assertion are the claims raised by the management. So management is raising a claim that all the transactions that they have recorded have actually occurred, and that one is occurred for the entity. And they again confirms that all the transactions are being completely recorded. They claims that all the transactions are accurately recorded. Again, they claims that the transactions have been recorded within the correct accounting period, right? For the cutoff, they specifies that the transactions are recorded within correct accounting period. Classification, they ensures that the transactions are being recorded in the correct accounting head. Presentation, they mentions that the transactions are being recorded in accordance with applicable financial reporting framework. So this is what the company's management claim. And it is the responsibility of the auditor to ensure whether this actual claim is correct or not. So suppose consider that it is mentioned in the scenario that there is fuel expenses relating to the entity, and it's 14,629 is a fuel expense. So they have recorded fuel expense in the scenario, and the examiner is asking us to perform procedures to confirm the fuel expense balance. So what we need to do? Management have claimed that this fuel expense have actually occurred and this one is occurred for the entity. So how can we confirm that? In order to confirm the occurrence, you should always trace the transactions to supporting documents, right? Transactions to supporting documents. Always keep that in mind. നമുക്ക് occurrence confirm ചെയ്യണമെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ transaction supporting documents ലേക്ക് trace ചെയ്യണം, which means നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്? Agree the expenses in the general ledger to supporting documents such as purchase invoices and goods received note to confirm that the company have actually purchased fuel expenses, for purchased fuel for the current year and it is relating to the company's use itself. Clear? Okay. Next, we need to confirm whether the transactions are completely recorded. So fuel expense complete at recorded. Completeness confirm to confirm completeness, we need to trace supporting documents to transactions. Yeah, supporting documents to transactions. So how can we confirm that? We can agree a sample of purchase orders to the ledger, right? To the purchase ledger in order to confirm that all the transactions are being completely recorded. മനസ്സിലായോ?
Yes.
Clear ആയി മക്കളെ? അപ്പം occurrence confirm ചെയ്യാൻ എപ്പോഴും എന്ത് ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്? Transaction supporting documents ലേക്ക് trace ചെയ്യണം. Completeness confirm ചെയ്യണോ? Supporting documents എടുക്കുക എന്നിട്ട് അത് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷനിലേക്ക് വേണം trace ചെയ്യാൻ. Okay, clear? Accuracy, to confirm accuracy, what we can do? We can mathematically accuracy correct. Recalculate a sample of invoices in order to confirm the mathematical accuracy of the fuel expense. Clear? Then cut off correct ആണെന്ന് അറിയണം. എങ്ങനെ cut off correct ആണെന്ന് അറിയാൻ പറ്റുക? We can obtain purchase invoices of the last month of the year and we can review whether they have been included within the correct accounting period. Then how can we ensure the classification? We need to understand whether the fuel expenses are being included within the correct accounting head. We can obtain the breakdown of operating expenses in order to confirm whether the fuel expenses are included to confirm what classification. Clear? Which means in order to confirm whether the transactions are being recorded within the correct accounting head. And to find out the presentation, we can review the disclosures. Okay, yes, please.
Split breakdown same ആണോ?
സ്പ്ലിറ്റും ബ്രേക്ക് ഡൗണും സെയിം അല്ല. സ്പ്ലിറ്റ് എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേനും നമ്മളൊരു രണ്ട് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻസ് അല്ല സ്പ്ലിറ്റ് നോക്കുന്നത്, നമ്മൾ രണ്ട് അക്കൗണ്ടുകൾ തമ്മിലായിരിക്കും സ്പ്ലിറ്റ് നോക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവുക. ഒരു ടോട്ടൽ എമൗണ്ട് സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്തതിന്റെ ബ്രേക്ക് ഡൗൺ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോഴത്തേനും 10,000 എന്ന് പറയുന്ന എമൗണ്ട് സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്തു. അപ്പൊ ആ 10,000 എങ്ങനെയാണ് പോയെന്ന് അറിയാനാണ് നമ്മൾ ബ്രേക്ക് ഡൗൺ എടുക്കുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, നമ്മൾ ആ വേർഡ്സ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്ന രണ്ട് പേർപ്പസിനാണെന്ന് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ കേട്ടോ. മീനിങ് സെയിം ആണ്, പക്ഷെ രണ്ട് പേർപ്പസിനാണ് യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. Is that clear, everyone? Okay. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ ഇപ്പൊ എന്താ ചെയ്ത്? So literally we have done a set of procedure which was to confirm the fuel expense balance. And how did we do that? We have tried to figure out whether each of the assertions are being properly recorded. So this is how you will be considering while performing substantives on what have to be proved. So whenever you perform a substantive, you need to confirm whether each of the assertions are being properly treated. So assertions properly ആണ് ട്രീറ്റ് ചെയ്തേക്കെന്ന് അറിയാൻ നിങ്ങൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്? ഒക്കുറൻസ് കറക്റ്റ് ആണെന്ന് നോക്കണം, കംപ്ലീറ്റ്നെസ് കറക്റ്റ് ആണെന്ന് നോക്കണം, ആക്യുറസി കറക്റ്റ് ആണെന്ന് നോക്കുക, കട്ട് ഓഫ് നോക്കണം, ക്ലാസിഫിക്കേഷൻ നോക്കണം, പ്രസന്റേഷൻ നോക്കണം. Is that clear, everyone? Okay. And again, when you write the purpose is to confirm the assertion. However, it is not required to write in order to confirm cutoff, in order to confirm classification. It is not required to include like that. Instead, you include the meaning for each of the assertions. So when you have proved the cutoff, then you can mention that it is to ensure that the transactions are being recorded within the correct accounting period. When you confirm the classification, then you can mention then the transaction in order to confirm that the transactions are being included within the correct accounting head. So you can include the meaning. Clear? Clear, Ayo? Okay. So what all are the substantive that we need to, what all are the assertions that you need to confirm if there is something relating to class of transaction occurrence completeness,
completeness,
accuracy, cutoff, classification, and presentation. And by the way, what do you mean by class of transaction? What all are the things that will be included under the class of transaction?
income, expense.
Only income and expense. Exactly.
Sir, income substantive procedure എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അത് റവന്യൂ ആണ്.
ഇൻകത്തിന്റെ സബ്സ്റ്റാൻഡീവ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ റവന്യൂ ആണ്. യെസ്, ഓക്കെ. ഇനി നോക്കിയേ, നെക്സ്റ്റ് വൺ ഈസ് assertions about account balance. And what all are the things that will be included within the account balance?
Assets, liability, equity.
Assets,
Completeness,
liabilities, equity. Good. Assets, liability, and equity. So this will be included within the account balances. So what all were the assertions for the account balances? What the management will be claiming regarding account balances? First of all, they will claim that all the assets, liability, and equity recorded in the books are actually existing in the company. Then they will claim that company have rights over all the assets and obligations over all the liabilities. They will claim that all the assets, liabilities, and equity are completely recorded and all the disclosures are appropriately provided. Then they will claim that all the transactions are being valued using appropriate accounting standards and are being accurately recorded and correctly included in the accounts. They will claim that they have included all the assets, liability, and equity within the proper accounting head, which means they will claim that they have included all the current asset within the current assets itself, current liability within the current liability. Same as that non-current liability and non-current assets are also being included in the correct accounting head. Finally, they will also ensure that, they will mention that they have also presented the things appropriately. And say, for example, if the examiner have provided us to confirm the value of vehicle worth 20,000, which includes 4 vehicles worth 20,000. So how can we confirm the existence of the vehicle? Since it's relating to an asset, so how can we confirm the existence of vehicle?
Physical verification.
Physical verification, which means which sort of tests have to be done there? Sheet to floor test have to be done. What do you mean by sheet to floor test? We will look whether the transactions that are mentioned, assets that are mentioned in the company's books are physically existing in the company's warehouse or maybe in the company itself. So if a particular asset that is mentioned in the books actually exists in the company, that's a sheet to floor test to confirm the existence. And how can we confirm the completeness of the assets? We need to confirm whether all the vehicles are completely recorded. How can we do that?
floor to sheet.
Yeah, we'll go for a floor to sheet testing, whereby we will first of all do the physical physical count of the asset, and once after counting the assets physically, we will cross check that to the company's books, and we will confirm whether all the assets that physically exist in the company is actually included within the books, and if it is not included appropriately, it proves that the completeness is not fair. Then how can we confirm the rights and obligation? Well, when it comes to an asset, what we need to do? We need to confirm the rights of the asset. How can we confirm whether the company is having rights of this asset?
Ownership certificate.
Ownership.
Yes. We can review the ownership certificate or registration certificate of the vehicle in order to confirm the company is having legal title over the vehicle, right? Then we need to confirm accuracy, valuation, allocation. How can we do that?
Recalculation.
We can recalculate the depreciation figures to confirm whether the depreciation is mathematically accurate, and also we can review the revaluations done for the vehicle to confirm whether these are in accordance with IAS 16 property plan and agreement. Then, well, we know that when it comes to a non-current asset like PPE should be included within the non-current asset register and should be included in non-current asset within the SOFP. So we can take the breakdown of non-current asset register to confirm whether the PPE is being included correctly within the correct accounting head. So we can prove the classification, and finally to prove the presentation, we can look whether the company have provided all the disclosures in relation to the assets as well as its related disclosures are provided in accordance with accounting standards, and as per, if something is mentioned in the local legislation, can we confirm whether it is done in as per local legislation as well. So this will be what you need to confirm with regarding each of the assets, liabilities, and equity. So the purpose of the substantive procedures in relation to all the assets, liability, and equity will be to confirm the existence of the assets, whether we have got rights and obligation. Then we need to confirm whether the assets are being completely recorded, whether the accuracy, valuation, allocation is correct, classification is correct, and presentation is correct. So this will be very useful while you perform the questions in relation to MCQs. If you're getting MCQ question on the substantives related area, they might give you a substantive and they will be asking you to figure out whether it's an occurrence or whether it's a substantive relating to completeness. So to trace whether it's a substantive relating to occurrence or completeness, we can do one thing. If the substantive specifies tracing a transaction to the supporting documents, then it's occurrence. If something is mentioned that shows the supporting documents are being traced to the transaction, that shows completeness. Again, if there is any sort of recalculations or kind of reperformance of calculation, it will be to confirm the accuracy. If something is done with regarding dates, or if they are trying to figure out whether the transactions are recorded in correct accounting period, that will be cut off. If the auditor is taking any sort of breakdown of transactions, then it can be classification. If they're relating to the disclosures, it might be presentation or completeness. Again, if the auditor is performing any sort of sheet to flow test, whereby the auditor is matching the non-current asset register to the assets counted physically, then that's existence. Ulta, whereby the auditor, first of all, performs a physical inspection and then matches it to any other documents, it's completeness. If the auditor is looking after a particular asset's title or the ownership, that's rights and obligation. Again, if there is any sort of recalculation, or if the auditor is matching some sort of transaction is done in accordance with the financial reporting framework, it's accuracy, valuation, allocation. Again, if the auditor takes a breakdown, it's a classification most commonly. And finally, if it relates just to disclosures, then it's a presentation. So this is how you have to trace the assertion in an MCQ question. So you should clearly look into the procedure and understand what the auditor performs and think about the assertions as well. And you match the scenario with that of the assertion. Clear, everyone?
Yes,
Okay.
Yes, sir.
ഇങ്ങനെ സെനാരിയോ തന്നിട്ടാണ് ഓപ്ഷൻസ് വരെ നമ്മളടുത്ത് പിക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ പറഞ്ഞിട്ട്
നമുക്ക് സിനാരിയോ തന്നിട്ടായിരിക്കും ഓപ്ഷൻസ് തരുന്നുണ്ടാവുക പിക്ക് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട്. ഓക്കെ,
സർ പ്രസന്റേഷൻ്റെ ഒന്നുകൂടി പറയും.
പ്രസന്റേഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ ഇറ്റ് വിൽ ബി റിഗാർഡിംഗ് ഡിസ്ക്ലോഷേഴ്സ്. ഡിസ്ക്ലോഷേഴ്സ് അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡബിൾ ആണോ, ഡിസ്ക്ലോഷേഴ്സ് അപ്രോപ്രിയറ്റ്ലി ആണോ കൊടുത്തതെന്നുള്ളതായിരിക്കും നോക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവുക. ഓക്കെ, ഇൻ ബോത്ത് class of transaction as well as in account balance. Okay. So literally we have studied about this assertion just to let you know that each of these assertions have to be considered while performing the substantive procedures, because whenever we perform a substantive procedure, our ultimate aim should be to figure out whether the assertions actually exist or whether the assertions are being properly being treated in the financial statements. So assertions ഓരോന്നും കറക്റ്റ് ആണെന്ന് കൺഫേം ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടായിരിക്കും നമ്മൾ പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സ് പെർഫോം ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടാവുക. യെസ്,
അക്കൗണ്ടിംഗ് ബാലൻസിൽ എന്താ കട്ട് ഓഫ് ഇല്ലാത്ത അസെഷൻസിൽ?
അക്കൗണ്ടിംഗ് ബാലൻസിന്റെ അകത്ത് കട്ട് ഓഫ് വരും. എങ്ങനെയാണെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, ഇഫ് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് റിലേറ്റിംഗ് ടു ക്ലാസ് ഓഫ് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻ ആൻഡ് അക്കൗണ്ടിംഗ് ബാലൻസ്. സേ ഫോർ എക്സാമ്പിൾ, ഇപ്പം റവന്യൂ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ബാലൻസ് റവന്യൂ ആൻഡ് റിസീവബിൾസ് ആണ് എന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ആ കേസിൽ കട്ട് ഓഫ് വരും. കാരണം എന്താണെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചാൽ റവന്യൂവിനെ ബേസ് ചെയ്തിട്ടാണ് റിസീവബിൾസ് വരിക. അപ്പോൾ ഓട്ടോമാറ്റിക്കലി കട്ട് ഓഫ് അവിടെ കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യും. പിന്നെ എന്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമ്മൾ സ്പെസിഫിക്കലി അക്കൗണ്ട് ബാലൻസിനകത്ത് കട്ട് ഓഫ് കറക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാത്തതെന്ന് ചോദിച്ചു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ, അക്കൗണ്ട് ബാലൻസ് പറയുമ്പോൾ വി വിൽ ബി ടേക്കിംഗ് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻസ് ഓൺ എ പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഡേറ്റ് അല്ലേ. അക്കൗണ്ട് ബാലൻസ് പറയുമ്പോൾ അസറ്റ് എ പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഡേറ്റ് എത്രയാണ് നമ്മുടെ അസറ്റ്സ്, ലയബിലിറ്റി, ഇക്വിറ്റി എന്നാണ് പറയുന്നത്. ഓൺ ദ അതർ ഹാൻഡ് വെൻ ഇറ്റ് കംസ് ടു ക്ലാസ് ഓഫ് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻ, അവിടെ നമ്മളൊരു പീരീഡ് ആണ് കൺസിഡർ ചെയ്യുന്നത്. സോ വിത്തിൻ ദാറ്റ് പീരീഡ് ഉള്ള ട്രാൻസാക്ഷൻ മാത്രമേ ഇവിടെ കാണിക്കാൻ പാടുള്ളൂ. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് കട്ട് ഓഫിന് ഇമ്പോർട്ടൻസ് ക്ലാസ് ഓഫ് ട്രാൻസാക്ഷനിലും ഇവിടെ ഇല്ലാത്തത്. മനസ്സിലായോ? Okay. So well, actually we need to discuss on common substantive procedures that need to be performed by the auditor. See, whenever you get a question on the substantive, most probably you might not be able to remember all the substantives that you have already learned. So in that case, you can use some common set of substantives. And about these substantives also we have already discussed in the class. So whenever you write the common substantive also, you should ensure that there should be clear procedure, document or information have to be specified there, and the purpose should also be provided. So procedure have to be clearly mentioned, document or information have to be provided, and the purpose should also be clearly specified. First of all, when you get a scenario, you just go through the scenario very well and you consider what you can inquire or discuss with the management. So whatever things which are being mentioned in the scenario can be considered. So the fact in the scenario have to be discussed with the management, and to confirm what is your purpose to be confirmed, that purpose should be specified. Say for example, if the scenario specifies that the company have introduced a restructuring program, and whereby some of the employees might lose their job, and due to which we need to create a redundancy provision, and the company have already recognized a redundancy provision of 10,000. Okay, or else I will just do one thing, I will take a question, we will just go according to the question itself. Just a moment.
Sir, direct questions will.
There are questions ചോദിക്കാൻ നമുക്ക് നോക്കാം കേട്ടോ. Okay, just read this scenario. The draft financial statements recognize profit before tax of, or else let's start from the very beginning. It is 1st July 2015. Dashing Company manufactures women's clothing and its year end was 30th April 2015. You are in the audit, you are an audit supervisor of John T and Company, and the year end audit for Dashing Company is due to commence shortly. The draft financial statements recognize profit before tax of 2.6 million and total asset of 18 million. You have been given responsibility for auditing receivables, which is a material balance, and as part of the audit approach, positive receivable circularization is to be undertaken. At the planning meeting, finance director of Dashing Company informed audit engagement partner that the company was closing one of the small production site, and as a result, number of employees would be made redundant. Redundancy provision of 1,10,000 is included in the draft financial statements. So this is what they have mentioned with regarding the scenario. So they have told us that the company's finance director is planning to make some of the employees redundant after the year end. So for which they have already recognized a redundancy provision. Then they have asked us to perform substantive procedure to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in relation to redundancy provision. So they have asked us to give procedures in relation to the redundancy provision. So before doing such sort of question, you have to consider one thing. You have to think about what all things have to be confirmed by the auditor. Your auditor endake കാര്യങ്ങളെ confirm ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്?
Announce ചെയ്തു നോക്കണം.
Okay, first thing, auditor need to understand whether the redundancy is being announced to the employees, right? Okay, then where are the
Amount reasonable.
Reasonable.
provision amount reasonable or we need to consider whether the amount of provision is reasonable. പിന്നെ എന്താ കൺഫേം ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്?
Mathematical accuracy.
ഓക്കെ, ആക്യുറേറ്റ് ആണോ എന്ന് നോക്കണം. ഓക്കെ ഫൈൻ. പിന്നെ വേറെന്താ?
Disclosures correct ആയിട്ട് കൊടുക്കും.
ഡിസ്ക്ലോഷേഴ്സ് കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്ന് നോക്കണം. ഓക്കെ ഫൈൻ. വേറെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടോ? ഓക്കെ, ഫോർ ദ ടൈം ബീങ് ഇതാണുള്ളതെന്ന് വെച്ചു. So, you have to consider whether the redundancy is being announced to the employees, amount of provision reasonable ആണെന്ന് നോക്കാം, accurate ആണെന്ന് അറിയണം, disclosures കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്ന് അറിയണം. അപ്പോൾ നിങ്ങൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യുക? You have to start from here. So think whether there is any possibility to ask something with the management. മാനേജ്മെന്റുമായിട്ട് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ടോ എന്ന് നോക്കുക. എന്താ മാനേജ്മെന്റോട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ളത്? അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്തോ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മാനേജ്മെന്റോട് ചോദിച്ചൂടെ? Okay, so you can mention that, discuss with the management about whether they have announced the redundancy to the employees in order to confirm whether there is a present obligation. So that is what you need to confirm, right? To confirm whether there is a present obligation. Same as that, you can always consider obtaining written representation from the management. So again, you have to think very well about what you need to obtain written representation. But endine pattita ninge written representation obtain cheyan patta?
Redundancy provision reasonable ആണ്.
Redundancy provision reasonable ആണോ എന്ന് അറിയണം. For which you need to know the assumptions, right? അല്ല rational അറിയണം. So what you can do? Obtain written representation from the management about the rationale on the basis of which redundancy is calculated. Redundancy provision is determined to ensure whether it is reasonable. Clear ആയോ? മാനേജ്മെന്റിനോട് നമുക്ക് റിട്ടേൺ റെപ്രസെന്റേഷൻ വാങ്ങിക്കാം എന്തിന്റെ ബേസിസിലാണ് redundancy provision ക്രിയേറ്റ് ചെയ്തേക്കുന്നതെന്ന് അത് റീസണബിൾ ആണോ എന്ന് അറിയാൻ. Again, you can always consider obtaining an external confirmation. ഈ ഒരു കേസിൽ ആരുടെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്നായിരിക്കും എക്സ്റ്റേണൽ കൺഫർമേഷൻ വാങ്ങാൻ പറ്റുക?
Solicitor.
ഓക്കെ, അഡ്വക്കേറ്റ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ സോളിസിറ്റർ. ശരിയല്ലേ? എന്തിനാണ് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് വാങ്ങേണ്ടത്? വൈ ഡു വി നീഡ് എമൗണ്ട് റീസണബിൾ ആണോ എന്ന് അറിയാം. ഓക്കെ, അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എന്ത് ചെയ്യാം? obtain external confirmation from the lawyer in order to confirm whether the amount of probable cash outflow is 1,10,000. Clear ayo? Okay. Correspondence means it's a communication between two persons. So ഇവിടെ ആരുടെയൊക്കെ കയ്യിൽ നിന്ന് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കറസ്പോണ്ടൻസ് വാങ്ങേണ്ടത്?
Employee
and company. എന്തിനു വേണ്ടിയിട്ടായിരിക്കും അത്? അനൗൺസ് ചെയ്തോ എന്നറിയാനായിട്ട് അല്ലെ? അപ്പൊ നമുക്ക് എന്ത് പറയാം? റിവ്യൂ കറസ്പോണ്ടൻസ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ ഡാഷിംഗ് കമ്പനി ആൻഡ് ദ എംപ്ലോയീസ് in order to understand whether the company have made announcement in redundancy to the employees. Clear? Okay. Then next, you can consider recalculation or reperformance to confirm the mathematical accuracy. What you can recalculate here? Amount of provision. So you can recalculate the amount of provision. So you have to specify it according to the scenario. Recalculate the amount of provision of 1,10,000 in order to confirm the mathematical accuracy. Then you can always consider performing analytical procedure, which means comparison between current year balance or previous year balance, or comparison with industry standard. And in case of difference, you can also discuss with the management about the reasons. So, ഇവിടെ എന്തിനെ പറ്റിയിട്ട് analytical procedure ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുക?
Industry data.
Okay. You can perform analytical procedure by comparing the amount of provision for
current year and industry year.
Okay, amount of provision for redundancy with the previous year or with industry standards, which we need to do use
industry data.
So is it possible to compare with the previous year here?
No.
Why?
Redundancy എല്ലാ വർഷവും ഉണ്ടാവും.
This is not a recurring issue, so you won't be able to compare it with the prior year. Instead, you can compare it with the industry data. So perform analytical procedure by comparing the redundancy provision with that of the industry data, and in case of significant variance, discuss with the management about the reasons for the same. Then, so well, you need to understand whether the redundancy is included, the provision for redundancy is being appropriately being included within the company's financial statements. So what you can do? You can obtain the breakdown of expenses in order to confirm whether the expense in relation to the redundancy provision have been included in the statement of P&L. Clear? അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് എക്സ്പെൻസിന്റെ ബ്രേക്ക് ഡൗൺ വാങ്ങാം, പ്രൊവിഷനുമായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്ത എക്സ്പെൻസ് ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ എന്ന് കൺഫേം ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട്. Then again, you can consider using board minutes. Well, we know that whenever a company faces any issues in the market, definitely they will be discussing about those issues within the board meeting. And whatever things that they have discussed in the board meeting will be included within the board minutes. So by reviewing the board minutes, what you can confirm here?
Announcement.
Yes, you can confirm the announcement of redundancy, right? So you can review the board minutes in order to confirm whether the announcement of redundancy have been made to employees to consider the possibility of having present obligation. Clear? Is that clear, everyone?
Yes.
Sir, അത് തന്നെയല്ല ഇപ്പൊ ഫസ്റ്റ് പോയിന്റ് പറയണ ഇതിങ്ങനെ റീ വരുമ്പോ കുഴപ്പമില്ല.
വരുമ്പോൾ കുഴപ്പമുണ്ട്. നമ്മളോട് ഇവിടെ 5 points ആണ് ചോദിച്ചേക്കുന്നത്. ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്ന 10 points ആ. You can write any 5 points. We are discussing all the possible points.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
അനൗൺസ്മെന്റിന് വേണ്ടി നമ്മൾ ഒരു പോയിന്റ് എഴുതിയാൽ മതിയോ അതോ 2 പോയിന്റ് അങ്ങനെ എഴുതാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
2 പോയിന്റ് എഴുതാൻ കുഴപ്പമില്ല, പക്ഷെ എല്ലാം അനൗൺസ്മെന്റ് കൺഫേം ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി മാത്രം ആവരുത്.
ഓക്കെ. ഇപ്പൊ 4 അസർഷന് ഓർമ്മ വന്നുള്ളെങ്കിൽ ഒരെണ്ണത്തിന് 2 എണ്ണം എഴുതിയ കുഴപ്പമുണ്ടോ?
ഇല്ല, കൺഫേം ചെയ്യാനുള്ള എല്ലാ കാര്യങ്ങളും കൺഫേം ചെയ്യാം. പിന്നെ റിക്കറിംഗ് പോയിന്റ്സ് വരുമ്പോഴത്തേനും മാർക്ക് കുറയും. ഓക്കെ
സാർ ഒന്നും കൂടെ പറയാമോ? കട്ടായി പോയി.
അതായത് നമുക്ക് എത്ര പോയിന്റ്സ് ആണോ റിപ്പിറ്റേഷൻ ഇല്ലാതെ എഴുതാൻ പറ്റുന്നത്, റിപ്പിറ്റേഷൻ ഇല്ലാതുള്ള പോയിന്റ്സ് എഴുതുക. പിന്നെ അതേപോലെ തന്നെ പർപ്പസ് എപ്പോഴും ഡിഫറെന്റ് പർപ്പസ് കൺഫേം ചെയ്യുക. ബട്ട് പർപ്പസ് സെയിം ആയാലും പ്രശ്നം വരില്ല, പ്രൊസീജിയർ സെയിം ആവാതിരുന്നാൽ മതി. ഇപ്പൊ എല്ലാത്തിനും 5 കാര്യത്തിന് എൻക്വയറി എന്ന് എഴുതി വെച്ചു, അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മാർക്ക് കിട്ടില്ല. മനസ്സിലായോ?
സർ സിനാരിയോ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആണെങ്കിൽ എല്ലാത്തിലും ഈ പോയിന്റ്സ് എഴുതാൻ പറ്റുമോ?
സിനാരിയോ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആണ്, എല്ലാത്തിലും ഈ പോയിന്റ്സ് തന്നെ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാം. അപ്പോൾ ഓരോരുത്തരും എന്തായിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും, പർപ്പസ് മാറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും, നമ്മൾ ചോദിക്കുന്ന കാര്യം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കുന്ന ആൾ മാറിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും. മനസ്സിലായോ?
ഓക്കെ സർ.
അതിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് ഈ പോയിന്റ് പഠിക്കുന്നത്, സിനാരിയോ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആയിട്ട് എഴുതാനായിട്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് സിനാരിയോ സ്പെസിഫിക് ക്വസ്റ്റൻ വെച്ച് തന്നെ പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നത്. ഓക്കെ, വേണ്ട. ജസ്റ്റ് ഐഡന്റിഫിക്കേഷൻ, ദെൻ ഏതാണ് ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ വേണ്ടത് അത് പറയാം. അത് പ്രൊസീജിയർ പറയാം, ഇൻഫർമേഷൻ പറയാം, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ട ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് ഏതാണോ അത് പറയാം, അതിന്റെ പർപ്പസ് എന്താണെന്നുള്ളത് പറയാം. ഓക്കെ. ഇനി എഗ്രി ഡാഷ് എക്സ്പെൻസസ് ടു സപ്പോർട്ടിംഗ് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ്സ്. ഇവിടെ സ്പെസിഫിക്കലി എക്സ്പെൻസ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സപ്പോർട്ടിംഗ് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ്സ് വെച്ചിട്ട് നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ക്രോസ് ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ടോ? ഇവിടെ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പറയാൻ പറ്റുന്ന സപ്പോർട്ടിംഗ് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ് എന്തായിരിക്കും? Redundancy, you need to confirm whether the amount of redundancy is appropriately treated. How can you confirm that? Right? How can you confirm that? Exactly. You can use the post-year end cash book, right? The redundancies payment might be made to the employees after the year end, right? So how can you confirm that? You can agree the redundancy provision to the post-year end cash book in order to confirm whether the redundancy provision created at the year end is reasonable. Clear ayo? Redundancy provision amount എന്ത് ചെയ്യുക, ഇയർ എൻഡിന് ശേഷമുള്ള ക്യാഷ് ബുക്കുമായിട്ട് ക്രോസ് ചെക്ക് ചെയ്യുക. എന്നിട്ട് ഇയർ എൻഡിന് അന്ന് പ്രൊവിഷൻ ആയിട്ട് വെച്ചേക്കുന്ന എമൗണ്ട് റീസണബിൾ ആണോ എന്ന് നോക്കുക. ക്ലിയർ ആയി മക്കളെ? Okay. And very finally, what you can do, as always, you can review notes to financial statements in order to confirm whether the disclosures in relation to redundancy are complete and are in accordance with accounting standards. Clear? Okay. So this is how you need to pick the points here. So actually over here, the examiner have asked us to identify 5 points and we have literally written 10 points. So out of which you can filter out the best possible points for you and you can write it accordingly. Okay. So this is how you need to pick the scenario specific point. So in this case, if you literally by heart and write the points in relation to provision, you will not be getting sufficient mark because they have given us a scenario and the procedure should be purely be based on the scenario. So if you write the points relating to the scenario, you will be getting marks over there. Clear?
സാർ ഇപ്പൊ 5 പോയിന്റ് ചോദിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്, നമ്മള് 6 പോയിന്റ് എഴുതി. പക്ഷെ അതിലൊരു പോയിന്റ് തെറ്റാണെങ്കിൽ കറക്റ്റ് 5 മാർക്ക് വീണ്ടും കിട്ടും.
ഇപ്പം അങ്ങനെയാണെന്നുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പം എപ്പോഴും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഏതൊക്കെയാണ് 5 പോയിന്റ് കറക്റ്റ് എന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു അത് മാത്രം എഴുതിയാൽ മതി, എഴുതി ടൈം കളയണ്ട. It will be purely based on examiner, but മിത്തായിട്ട് പറയും ആദ്യത്തെ ഫസ്റ്റ് 5 പോയിന്റ്സ് അവർ മാർക്ക് ചെയ്യുള്ളൂ എന്ന് ഓപ്ഷണൽ ആയിട്ട് വെച്ചാലും. ബട്ട് അങ്ങനെ അല്ല എന്ന് പറയുന്നവരും ഉണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ
സാർ, ഇതല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പോ നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ്സ് സെനറിയോയിലുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ അത് അല്ല എഴുതുന്നത്, ഇങ്ങനെയല്ല നമ്മൾ എഴുതുന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ
നമ്മൾ എപ്പോഴും സിനാരിയോ ആയിട്ട് മാച്ച് ചെയ്ത് തന്നെ എഴുതുക. അതായത് ഇപ്പം എമൗണ്ട് ഓഫ് പ്രൊവിഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുന്നതിന് പകരം യു ഷുഡ് ഓൾവേസ് മെൻഷൻ that the amount of provision of 1,10,000 relating to the client instead of that relating to dashing company. So അങ്ങനെ scenario specific ആയിട്ട് തന്നെ എഴുതുക കേട്ടോ.
നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ് എഴുതുന്നത് ഡയറക്റ്റ് ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ മാത്രമേ പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ് എഴുതുന്നത്.
പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ് ഡയറക്റ്റ്ലി ചോദിക്കുമ്പോഴാണ്. പക്ഷെ പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ് ഡയറക്റ്റ്ലി കൊണ്ട് എഴുതി വെക്കുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ക്ലാസ്സിൽ പറഞ്ഞ കാര്യം ശ്രദ്ധിക്കുക, നേരെ അത് അങ്ങനെ തന്നെ എഴുതരുത്. അതായത് ഇപ്പം റീപെർഫോം ബാങ്ക് റീകൺസിലേഷൻ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ് ഇൻ ഓർഡർ ടു എൻഷുർ ദ മാത്തമാറ്റിക്കൽ ആക്യുറസി. അങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ചത്. സോ നിങ്ങളോട് നേരെ ബാങ്കിന്റെ പോയിന്റ്സ് ചോദിക്കുകയാണ്. അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾ എന്ത് പറയാ? റീപെർഫോം ദ ബാങ്ക് റീകൺസിലേഷൻ സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ് ഓഫ് ഡാഷിംഗ് കമ്പനി ഇൻ ഓർഡർ ടു കൺഫേം ദ മാത്തമാറ്റിക്കൽ ആക്യുറസി. അങ്ങനെ എപ്പോഴും കമ്പനിയുടെ പേരും ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യുക, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ എന്തെങ്കിലും ഫിഗേഴ്സോ കാര്യങ്ങളോ അല്ല ഡേറ്റോ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്, ആ ഡേറ്റയും കൂടി നമ്മൾ പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ്സിനകത്തേക്ക് ഇൻകോർപ്പറേറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് എഴുതുക. മനസ്സിലായോ?
അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ ഒന്നില്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇപ്പൊ സാറ് പറഞ്ഞ പോലെ ചെയ്യുക, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഡയറക്റ്റ് പോയിന്റ്സ് ചെയ്താൽ പക്ഷേ കണക്ട് ചെയ്ത് എഴുതാം.
കണക്ട് ചെയ്ത് എഴുതുക, അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. അതായത് എപ്പോഴും സിനാരിയോ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആണ്. നമ്മൾ നേരെ പഠിച്ച സാധനം കൊണ്ട് കോപ്പി പേസ്റ്റ് ആവരുത്. കമ്പനിയുടെ പേരും അതേപോലെ തന്നെ തന്നേക്കുന്ന ബേസിക് ഡീറ്റെയിൽസ് ആണെങ്കിൽ ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്യണം, അത്രേ ഉള്ളൂ. ഓക്കെ, യാ. അപ്പം just keep this one in mind. Whenever you get a scenario specific point, this question should be there in your mind, and you should be asking the same questions to the examiner. So you should be asking whether there is any possibility for having a discussion with the management, obtaining written representation, getting external confirmation from some third party, reviewing correspondence between two persons, recalculating or reperforming any calculation, performing analytical procedure, obtaining breakdown of expenses, reviewing board minutes, agreeing something to the supporting documents, and reviewing the notes to financial statements. Abhi 10 points orthoka, you can remember these points to write any substantive procedure relating to the scenario specific points. Appo onnu parne endakya substantives nammal ezhundad? Discuss with the management, then obtaining written representation, consider getting external confirmation, reviewing correspondence, recalculating or reperforming some transactions, performing analytical procedures, obtaining the breakdown of expenses, reviewing board minutes, agreeing the transaction to the supporting documents, and reviewing notes to financial statements. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now we have already discussed on a scenario where the examiner is asking us to write the scenario specific substantives. So we have covered that area. We have got a question on scenario specific substantive. Then next one, please do one thing. We have just already read this area. Anyway, we will just go through the same area one more time. It is 1st July 2015. Dashing Company is manufacturing women's clothing. Its year end was 30th April 2015. You are audit supervisor of John D & Company, and the year-end audit for Dashing Company is due to commence shortly. They have told us that the company's profit is 2.6 million, total asset is 18 million, and we are responsible for auditing receivables. And that particular balance is material, and they have asked us to, and they have also told us they are performing positives receivable circularization. So this is what it is mentioned in the scenario. Maragatonilla, Nagaru Paranda, positive receivable circularization, I can understand. Then they have told us that we need to describe the substantive procedure other than receivable circularization the auditor should perform to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence to verify each of the following assertion in relation to Dashing Company's receivables. So they have told us to write any two substantives to confirm accuracy valuation allocation, because they have given us that mark will be split equally between each part. They have asked us to write substantive procedures in relation to Dashing Company's receivables completeness, again to confirm the Dashing Company's receivables rights and obligation. So 2 points from accuracy valuation allocation, 2 points of completeness, and 2 points of rights and obligation. So what we need to do? We need to consider the substantive procedures we have studied in relation to each of this following area. From the area of receivables, any 2 points with regarding the completeness. So when you write the points in relation to completeness, ensure that completed disclosure checklist for the Dashing Company in order to ensure that all disclosures relevant to the receivables have been made. Then you can also vouch some selected amounts from the sales and receivables ledger to the supporting documents such as sales orders and sales orders to come from the completeness of Dashing Company's receivables balance. Same as that, you can use the same points. So in the manner, we need to provide 2 points relating to completeness, 2 points relating to accuracy valuation allocation, and 2 points relating to rights and obligation. So this is something we consider as the assertion specific substantives without scenario. Clear? Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Sir, ഈ ബാങ്ക് ലോൺ.
Sorry?
ബാങ്ക് ലോൺ.
So when it comes to bank, it will be basic bank. When it comes to a bank loan, if it is over a year, it's non-current liability. മനസ്സിലായോ? Okay.
ഈ ഓവർ ഡ്രാഫ്റ്റ് ഒക്കെ പറയുമ്പോൾ ബാങ്കിന്റെ അതാണ് എഴുതുന്നത്.
Overdraft ഒക്കെ പറയുന്ന സമയത്ത് ബാങ്കിന്റെ വേണം പറയാനായിട്ട്. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we'll do one more question. See. Please read the area of bonus in this question and requirement number C. Bonus in the കാര്യം വായിച്ചു നോക്കുക, എന്നിട്ട് requirement number C വായിക്കുക.
ഡൗട്ട് ഉണ്ട്.
Yes, please.
ഈ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഒക്കെ ഇതേപോലെ തന്നെയാണോ വരാ? അതായത് സെനാരിയോ ഒക്കെ ഇതേപോലെ തന്നെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യന്റെ പേര് മാറും, അതേപോലെ തന്നെ എമൗണ്ട് മാറും, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ തന്നെ ആയിരിക്കും വരാ?
ക്വസ്റ്റിന്റെ പേരും എമൗണ്ടും മാത്രമായിരിക്കില്ല മാറുക, സിനാരിക്കത്തെയും ചേഞ്ച് ഉണ്ടാവും.
അതെ അല്ലേ?
സെയിം പാറ്റേൺ ആയിരിക്കുന്നേ ഉള്ളൂ, സിനാരിയോ വുഡ് ബി ഡിഫറെന്റ്.
സാർ ഈ കപ്ലാങ്ക് കിറ്റിലൊക്കെ സബ്സ്റ്റാൻഷ്യൽ പ്രൊസീജിയർ ഏരിയുള്ള മെത്തേഡിലൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ ആൻസർ ചെയ്തിട്ട് പറയും.
ആ Done?
Yes.
Okay. So we have actually already studied the points in relating to bonus, right? So bonus ne kuറിച്ച് ഏതാ points പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത് നമ്മള്? Directors, emoluments, directors, emoluments. So first of all, you go through the scenario and scenario ക്ക് എന്താണ് പറഞ്ഞേക്കുന്നത് അതിന് corresponding ആയിട്ടുള്ള points pick ചെയ്യുക. Okay, so we'll just go through the scenario. The company's board is comprised of 7 directors. They are each entitled to a bonus based on draft year-end net assets, excluding intangible assets. Details of the bonus are included in the director's service contract. So, well, they have told us 2 things. First of all, they have told us that the company's bonus will be based on year-end net assets after excluding intangible assets. Again, they have told us that each of the directors will be paid bonus in relation to their director service contract. Okay, so what we need to do? Gooseberry is the client company's name. Okay, so what we need to do in relation to the 2 things? First of all, they have told us that bonus is based on year-end net assets. What we can do to confirm that?
Net asset and
representation എടുത്തിട്ട് intangible asset exclude ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടോ?
അതിന് നമ്മൾ എന്താ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത്? കമ്പ്യൂട്ടേഷൻ കറക്റ്റ് ആണെന്ന് അറിയാൻ റീകാൽക്കുലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം. അപ്പൊ നമ്മൾ എന്ത് പറയാം? റീകാൽക്കുലേറ്റ് the bonus payment of 7 directors or each of the individual directors to confirm that the bonus payments are calculated on the basis of net assets after excluding intangible assets in order to confirm the accuracy. Clear? Then next they have mentioned that details of the bonus are included in the director service contract. How can you ensure that whether details of the bonus are appropriately included in the service contract?
Contract review.
Yes, we can review the contract, right? നമ്മൾ already പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളതാണെന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് എന്താ പറയാം? Review the director's contract and ensure bonus are consistent with terms of this contract. Clear? Okay, so here also you mention it in accordance with the scenario. Review the Gooseberry company's director's contract and ensure bonus are consistent with the terms of these contracts. Clear, everyone? Yeah. Then the bonus which relate to 2015 year end was paid to each director in May 2015. and the costs were accrued and recognized within wages and salary for the year ended 30th April 2015. Separate disclosures of the bonus are required in accordance with local legislation. So they have mentioned that the directors' bonus payments are actually paid after the year end. And they have recorded the same amount in the wages and salaries for the year ended 30th April 2015 ka balance. And they have also clearly mentioned that separate disclosure for bonus is required as per as per the local legislation. So first you need to confirm whether the amount paid to the director is appropriate and whether the year-end balance is correct. How can you prove that? Meaning I lose. Okay,
പോസ്റ്റ് ഇയർ ആൻഡ് ബാങ്ക്
പോസ്റ്റ് ഇയർ എൻഡിലെ ബാങ്ക് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ക്യാഷ് ബുക്ക് നോക്കി ബാങ്ക് സ്റ്റേറ്റ്മെന്റ്സ് നോക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് എന്ത് മനസ്സിലാവും? എത്ര കൊടുത്തു എന്നുള്ളത് മനസ്സിലാവും. എന്നിട്ട് അത് എന്തുമായിട്ട് എഗ്രി ചെയ്യണം? ഇയർ എൻഡിന്റെ അന്നത്തെ ഡയറക്ടേഴ്സ് ബോണസ് എത്രയാണോ വേജസ് ആൻഡ് സാലറിക്ക് അത് ഇൻക്ലൂഡ് ചെയ്തേക്കുന്നുള്ള മാച്ച് ചെയ്ത് നോക്കണം കംപ്ലീറ്റ് ആണോ എന്ന് അറിയാൻ. ശരിയല്ലേ? ഓക്കെ, അപ്പൊ നിങ്ങൾ എന്ത് പറയാ? എഗ്രി ദ പോസ്റ്റ് ഇയർ ആൻഡ് bank statements to the bonus payments recognized in the wages and salaries in order to confirm that the all amount of bonus are being recorded completely at the year end. Clear?
Yes.
Finally, separate disclosure of the bonus by directors is required by local legislation. How can you prove that?
Review the disclosures.
Review the disclosure notes in relation to the financial statements to confirm that directors' bonus are being appropriately disclosed in accordance with local legislation and as per standards. Clear? Is that clear, everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So this is how you will be matching the points which we already learned with that of the scenario. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഓൾറെഡി പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ്സ് ഇങ്ങനെയായിരിക്കും സിനാരിയോ ആയിട്ട് മാച്ച് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ടാവുക. അപ്പൊ സിനാരിയോയിൽ എന്താണ് പറഞ്ഞേക്കുന്നത് അതിന് കറസ്പോണ്ടിങ് ആയിട്ട് എഴുതുക കേട്ടോ. ക്ലിയർ?
നമ്മൾ 4 പോയിന്റ് പറഞ്ഞു. അഞ്ചാമത്തെ പോയിന്റ് നമുക്ക്
സെയിം പഠിച്ച പോയിന്റ്സ് തന്നെ റിപ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. അതിൻ്റെ അത് പറഞ്ഞ സെയിം കാര്യങ്ങൾ തന്നെ റിപ്പീറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം കേട്ടോ. ഇനി we have already done this question, but still ജസ്റ്റ് ഒരു അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡിങ്ങിന് വേണ്ടിയിട്ടാണ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ജാസ്മിൻ കമ്പനിയുടെ ക്വിക്ലി ഈ സിനാരിയോ ഒന്ന് വായിച്ചു നോക്കി. എവരിവൺ പ്ലീസ് ഗോ ത്രൂ ദിസ് സിനാരിയോ വെരി ക്വിക്ലി. Done?
Yes.
Okay. So Jasmine Company's trade receivables ledger is comprised of large number of customers. In the previous year, audit team has undertaken positive receivable circularization to confirm the year-end balance. However, customer response rate has been historically low, so alternative audit procedures have to be undertaken. Decision have to be made that current year audit circularization will not be performed. Year-end trade receivables balance is 3.9 million. Allowance for credit losses and credit losses or trade receivables is 4,10,000. So they have asked us to describe the substantive procedure. Auditor need to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in relation to Jasmine Company's trade receivables. So they have just asked us to identify the procedures that need to be performed by the auditor in relation to Jasmine Company's trade receivables. And what all are the things that are mentioned in the scenario? First, they have told us that their receivables comprised of large number of customers. then they have already done a positive received circularization in the past year, and they have not got any replies for that. So they have decided not to perform received circulation for the current year, and they need to confirm the year-end balance. In addition to which, they have just mentioned us that the current year receivables balance is 3.9 million. Allowance for credit losses is 4,10,000 as compared with that of prior year. It have been increased during the current year. So this is what they have mentioned. So what they have actually asked here. Why did they send the receivable circularization in the previous year? And what they need to confirm now?
Confirm the existence.
Yes, they need to confirm the year-end balance is actually existing or not. So to confirm the year-end balance, it means existence, right? And existence confirms normally first procedure. It's the first procedure for confirming the existence. We'll be sending
External confirmation.
external confirmation.
Receivable
And do we
circular.
need to send external confirmation in this case?
No.
No, because they have told us that they have decided to perform alternative audit procedures. And have we studied about the alternative audit procedures? Yes, we have studied about the alternative audit procedures that need to be performed in relation to the existence, right? So these alternative audit procedures can be considered here. Is that clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
But again, when you write this, it should be based on scenario, which means review after-date cash receipts of Jasmine Company by inspecting bank statement and cash receipts documentation to confirm the existence. Examine the customer accounts and customer correspondence of Jasmine Company to assess whether the outstanding balance represents specific invoice and confirm their validity. Vouch the selected amount of sales and receivables ledger to supporting documents such as sales order and sales invoice. Again, here also you can include that from the sales and receivables ledger of Jasmine Company, and it should be always be considered like that. So the Jasmine Company's word should be provided priority. Again, they have also told us that the allowance for credit losses have increased during the current year. So what we need to do there?
Compare.
Compare. Current year and previous can be compared here. And I've told you, whenever you perform a comparison, can we directly compare the current year allowance with that of the previous year? Will there be any benefit for that?
No.
Sales ratio.
Percentage comparison. So how will we compare? Perform analytical procedure by comparing allowance for credit losses as a percentage of trade receivables balance with that of the previous year in order to consider whether there is any variance, and in case of significant variance, it should be discussed with the manager. It should be further investigated. Clear, Ayo? Okay. So this is what we consider as the scenario plus assertions, whereby we have got a scenario and they will also be getting questions on basis of assertions. Clear, everyone?
Sir, one doubt.
Yes, please.
Receivables percentage receivables sales percentage
receivables sales receivables balance create sales in the basis. Allowance for receivables allowance for receivables on the basis, allowance for credit losses on the basis of trade receivables. Okay.
Payables payables sales side purchase.
Payables and a purchase side. Okay.
Sir, comparison percentage in the basis receivables in the percentage in the basis.
Percentage basis comparison. If current year allowance for receivables previous year at compare. Allowance for receivables allowance for receivables same at the special receivables balance or reward good it and searchment a good and Upon Adunda number current year letriano receivables which no allowance other previous year that compare other random same on a personal percentage figure on the same person. I will check in at all. Okay.
Okay, sir, scenario basically they comparison
common at percentage.
Okay. ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി ബേസ്ഡ് ആവുമ്പോ നമ്മൾ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി ഡാറ്റ വെച്ചിട്ടാവുമ്പോഴും ഇതേപോലെ പെർസെന്റേജ് വെച്ചിട്ട്
ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി ഡാറ്റ സെയിം തന്നെ. Okay. So we will just go through one more past paper. Just please go through this scenario. They have asked us to perform the substantive procedures in relation to sufficient and appropriate audit evidence in relation to two matters. They have given us two common matters. They have asked us to write substantive procedures in relation to about two matters. Done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in the past, K company has received negative press report over the condition of its fast food restaurants, with comments suggesting that they are old-fashioned and tired-looking. Therefore, during the year, company undertook a full review of its assets and carried out extensive refurbishment to majority of its restaurants. This review resulted in a significant amount of aging fixtures and fittings being disposed of, and significant amount of capital expenditure was invested in all remaining restaurants. They have asked us for 6 marks. They have asked us to provide substantive procedures to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in relation to the above matters. So what they have actually mentioned is, so K company is having negative press reports against the company's fast food restaurant chain. They are telling that the restaurants are old fashioned. So they have asked us to refurbish it. And what the company have done. So that's the important part. What the company have done for that?
Dispose
Okay, they have disposed of some of the assets and again invested in some capital expenditure, which means they have added some
additions.
So which means there is addition of assets and disposal of assets. So once after picking the particular thing in the scenario, it will be very easy to give the answer. ഇനി എന്തെങ്കിലും പാടുണ്ടോ? ഇല്ല, നമ്മളോട് ചോദിച്ചേക്കെന്താ? It's all about addition and disposal of asset. So you can include equal points for addition and equal points for performing the disposal of the assets. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Clear, everyone? So that first one is a scenario specific question. The second one is a direct question. The refurbishment was financed via share issue in 2015 at a premium of 1.6 million. So what they have mentioned is regarding the share issue of 1.6 million at premium. So what is the most important point that you need to refer here?
Premium separated.
You need to review the split between share capital and share premium in order to confirm that only the nominal value of share is included within share capital and remaining amount are being included within the premium account. Yeah, clear? Okay, and other than that, you can include 3 points in relation to the share issue as well. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is how you will be getting 4 sort of questions in relating to the substantive procedure. You will be getting general procedures, scenario specific, assertion specific, scenario specific, assertion specific. So whenever you include substantive procedures, always keep it in mind that you must purely read the scenario, because if something goes wrong with the requirement or with the scenario, if you particularly miss a particular assertion or whatever things being missed in the scenario, you will not get marks for substantives. And when you get general substantive, you must always consider writing points according to the pre-learned theory. However, on the basis of that, on the other hand, if you're getting a scenario specific substantives, you should clearly provide the substantive procedures according to the scenario itself. So what all are the things that you have to consider while providing a scenario specific scenario specific substantive? You have to think whether there is any possibility of having discussion or having an inquiry with the management. Then, obtain written representation, then external confirmation, reviewing correspondence, then performing recalculation or reperformance, analytical procedures. You can review the breakdown of expenses, then you can review board minutes, then you can agree the transaction with the supporting documents, then you can also review the notes to financial statements. Is that clear, everyone? Paka?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So this is what you need to consider with regarding the substantive procedures. Yes, please.
Sir, previous question, നമുക്ക് 4 മാർക്ക് അല്ല 6 മാർക്കിനുള്ളത് സിനാരിയോ ബേസ്ഡ് എഴുതാൻ പറഞ്ഞില്ലേ? അപ്പൊ അതിനകത്ത് ഇങ്ങനെയാണോ എഴുതണ്ടേ?
അല്ല, അവിടെ സിനാരിയോ ബേസ്ഡ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അവിടെ നമുക്ക് സിനാരിയോ പ്ലസ് ജനറൽ പോലെ അല്ലായിരുന്നു അത്. Because അവിടെ നമ്മൾ എന്ത് പിക്ക് ചെയ്തു? അവിടെ there is nothing much mentioned in the scenario. They have just told us that they have added some asset and disposed of that. So addition disposal points എഴുതിയാൽ മതി. മനസ്സിലായോ? Okay. ഇപ്പം അഡീഷൻ ഡിസ്പോസൽ ഇങ്ങനെ ചെയ്തു, അതിൻ്റെ അകത്ത് കുറെ എണ്ണം റീവാല്യൂ ചെയ്തു, അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ പറയുകയാണെങ്കിൽ എന്തായി മാറും? സിനാരിയോ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആയി മാറും പ്യൂർലി. ഓക്കെ
ഓക്കെ സർ.
സോ എല്ലാവർക്കും ക്ലിയർ ആണോ സബ്സ്റ്റാൻറ്റീവിന്റെ കാര്യം? ഇസ് ഇറ്റ് ക്ലിയർ എവരിവൺ?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So we will be doing much more questions relating to substantive after the crash course as well. So before that time itself, you have to complete the substantives. Who are demanding to complete the substantives should complete this part, and we have to start with the question practice again before having our mock exams. Okay, so this is how
mock exam ennuണ്ടാവുക?
പറയാം. Okay, next week, probably Monday ആയിരിക്കും.
Okay.
Yeah, so
MCQ question.
We will practice that as well.
Sir, direct questions.
Direct questions ഏതാ? സബ്സ്റ്റാൻറ്റീവ്സിന്റെ ആണോ? സബ്സ്റ്റാൻറ്റീവ്സ് ഡയറക്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് ഒന്നും സിനാരിയോ തരാതെ നമ്മുടെ അടുത്ത് ഡയറക്ട്ലി എന്ത് ചോദിക്കും? സിനാരിയോ തരാതെ തന്നെ നമ്മുടെ അടുത്ത് ചോദിക്കുന്നുണ്ടാവും വാട്ട് ആർ ദ സബ്സ്റ്റാൻറ്റീവ് പ്രൊസീജിയേഴ്സ് ദാറ്റ് നീഡ് ടു ബി പെർഫോം ബൈ ദ ഓഡിറ്റർ ടു കൺഫേം ദ ഇയർ ആൻഡ് സെയിൽസ് ടാക്സ് ലയബിലിറ്റി.
അതല്ല സർ, ബാക്കി തിയറീസിന്റെ
ബാക്കി തിയറീസിന്റെ ഡയറക്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്
അതൊന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു.
ഏതൊക്കെ ഇമ്പോർട്ടന്റ് തിയറീസ് എന്നുള്ളതാണോ?
അതെ.
അത് ലാസ്റ്റ് ക്ലാസ്സിൽ പറയാം കേട്ടോ. We have got 2 more additional days now. Okay, so the upcoming days plans will be like this. Tomorrow we will be having discussion on reporting and corporate governance. Day after tomorrow we'll be having discussion on ethics and MCQs and other theoretical areas. Okay, so this is what you need to learn with regarding the area of substantives. So substantives in the questions ellarum ettom properly practice here. Do learn the substantives first, and after that just go through the questions. We will also be practicing additional questions relating to substantives from the class itself. So everyone should ensure that your substantives portions are completed on time, because it's one of the most important area for the paper AA. Okay? All right. So,
sir, crash course കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ട്രെയിനോട് വരും പഠിക്കാൻ.
yes, of course. തരും. Okay. So അപ്പം എല്ലാവരും ഇത്രയും കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഏറ്റവും പ്രോപ്പർലി പഠിച്ചിട്ട് വരും കേട്ടോ. Okay? All right.
Okay.
So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you.